y'all, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're a returning viewer. I'm Maisie, and this is Maisie with a Z, and today we're going to be talking about my reading goals for 2024 and going over my kind of reading stats from 2023. If you see an air of sadness in my eyes, it's because it's currently like -6 feels like -27 degrees where I go to school, and it's not fun. I don't do well when I'm not able to move around, so I'm talking on my camera instead. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my reading goals. So my first goal is the same one I set every year, which is to read 125 books. Yeah, I mean, this past year I shot way past that. I read 175, but the year before that I only read 125. The year before that was, I think, 175 again. Something like that. Once we get above 125, my reading varies a lot from year to year, but 125 is kind of the baseline where, like, if I read at like the normal baseline pace I usually read, I know I will definitely hit 125. I did briefly consider setting it at 100 in order to be able to prioritize like the longer books in my TBR, but because of the other goals I have on this list, I decided 125 was kind of what it needed to be. That's the goal. That's my Goodreads and Storygraph goal. My next goal is to be currently reading 50 series or fewer. According to my series tracker, I'm currently reading 62 series. Of those, quite a few of them are series where like I've like own all the remaining books left in the series and I just like have not read them yet. And yeah, I just really need to get a lot of these series done. I would like to finish more than 12 series, but I know because a lot of the books on my TBR are the first books in series, then I know I'm going to start a lot of series this year. So yes, my goal is to be currently reading 50 series or fewer at the end of the year. And if I can't do that, I would like to at least have a net negative number of series read. Like, as long as it is fewer than 62, it will be okay. It will still be some sort of success. My third goal, and the biggest goal, is to have a physical TBR of 75 books or fewer. Towards my physical TBR, I only count fiction books that I own. I don't count nonfiction books. I do own a lot of nonfiction books, but I don't count them just because, like, I engage with them differently than I engage with fictional books, you know? So yeah, I only count my fictional own TBR towards my own TBR. And so on Storygraph, I currently have that 175 books. I don't know for certain if there are books I own that are not counted on there or not, but I'm pretty sure I have all of them. So yeah, and then that's not even counting the 7 books I had that were on my physical TBR at the start of the year, but that I've already read or I'm currently reading. So yeah, I basically started the year with 182 books on my physical TBR, and I would like to be at 75 books or fewer by the end of the year. And some of that will likely come from unhauling books, because there's like probably maybe 10 that I've bookmarked as like maybe unhauling, but the rest of them will hopefully come from reading. So yes, I'm probably going to be trying to track this goal with like some sort of video series over the year. I'm still not entirely certain what form that will take, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. I have a stretch goal of having fewer than 50 books on my physical TBR. I'm not sure how feasible that is, given that like I will still allow myself to read books from Libby occasionally, and I will still buy books. But I'm going to try to significantly reduce the number of books I buy. So we'll see. The goal is fewer than 75 books. Really, if it's fewer than 100 books, like, I'll still be fine. I'll count that as a marginal success. But fewer than 75 books is the goal. My next goal, which I've already made a book about, is I have 24 books I'd like to read in 2024, and I made a video about that. It was part of my Bookmas challenge, and yeah, I mean, they're all books I'm really excited to read. I will be very upset with myself if I don't get to them. And also that list kind of encompasses some things that have been on my reading goals in past years, such as finishing the remaining 2 Jane Austen books I haven't read, which are Emma and Mansfield Park, and finally reading Anna Karenina. You can watch my video about it. I talk about all the books. Then my next 3 goals are not strictly reading based, but are book based. I'd like to, 1, review every book I read, not only in my monthly wrap-ups on BookTube, but also on Goodreads, and also in my reading journal. I'm going to start a reading journal. Look out for a video on that in upcoming weeks. But yeah, I'd really like to make a solid effort to record all my thoughts about books. So I already do that in my monthly wrap-ups, and I have no plan to stop doing that, but I'd like to do it on Goodreads and in my reading journal as well. My next goal, which I don't know if it's a stretch or not, is to post 52 BookTube videos, which would be 1 a week, obviously. I don't force myself to post every week. Like, I aim to post every Sunday, but I don't force myself to because I am a college student, and during finals week or like the week before finals week, I'm not posting a video. Like, it's not happening. I got stuff to do. And because I'm at a school on the quarter system, we have finals week 3 times a year. So that's not happening. Because I do, when I'm on school breaks, try to post more than once a week, then it'll average out. So I would like to have posted at least 52 booktube videos this year. Hopefully that happens. I really like making videos, so like I don't see that being a challenge. The next one is a bit of a challenge, and this is the last goal on the list, and that is to find a good rhythm for my blog and Bookstagram posting, where my blog was my original form of book social media, and then my Bookstagram. And so my blog kind of got taken over by the Bookstagram, and the Bookstagram got taken over by Booktube. And I'm so happy making Booktube content. Like, it is much more fulfilling for me than Bookstagram ever was. But I still do want to find a way. This is kind of 2 separate goals, because my blog, I just want to like post more written content and get more practice at writing longer form bookish content. I just would like to keep my blog more updated. When I get arcs, like, that's the place I post my reviews, but I don't want it to be entirely just reviews of arcs, which it kind of is right now. So I want to get in a good rhythm for that and figure out what type of content I like posting on that. Like, one really easy thing would be like most booktube videos I make could be very easily adapted to be like double content for the blog. We'll see. And then Bookstagram, the issue is just like, it does not feel like a healthy environment for me, which is kind of twofold, where one, just the nature of Instagram requires you to be on it all the time, which I don't enjoy doing, and it's not realistic for me as a college student. And like, I don't enjoy being forced to post kind of mindless content every day, or to just like try and engage with other accounts like constantly, just because I feel like it's not adding any value to my life. And then there's also the fact that I don't think the Bookstagram book community is a very healthy space. Like, I disagree with a lot of what it does, which is, I don't know, it's a lot of canceling authors for very minor things, and acting like anyone who disagrees with you is completely evil, and like, I don't know, I don't enjoy it. So I definitely never plan to be as active on Bookstagram as I once was, but like, I'd like to find a way to engage with it in like a healthy way, because I do enjoy being on it, and I like seeing authors' posts, and there are some accounts I really like on it, and I do like the like more casual engagement with people that you do on there as compared to like Booktube. But I need to find a rhythm for that that's not completely non-engagement, which is where I'm currently at, and like, it's fine, but somewhere between that and being as active on it as I once was, which was just not good for me. So yeah, those are all my reading goals for 2024. So I guess we'll go ahead and get into talking about my 2023 stats. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start with my Goodreads reading wrap up. So yeah, it says I read 175 books, which I already knew, and I read 63,525 pages. I'll look more at the page count stuff when we get to Storygraph, because it gives more detailed stuff. Shortest book, one of the poetry books I read for class, that's no surprise. And longest book was Kingdom of Ash, which is also no surprise. I have no thoughts about this poetry book. It was fine. For the poetry books I read for this class, I didn't give a rating, because I honestly was just like I just have not read enough poetry in order to apply it to my rating system. Because fiction, I read so much fiction that like, I know exactly where it falls in like my personal view. But the poetry, I'm like, I liked the poetry. I don't know if it's a 3 or 5 stars. And Kingdom of Ash, absolute 5 stars. So good. I love it so much. Finishing Thorn and Glass was the best thing I did this year. It was so good. Average book length in 2023, 363 pages. I think that's fairly decent. That's about where I would expect it to be. I definitely read quite a few books longer than that, but I'd say like the average length of a book I read is like about 350 pages, so that makes sense. And then most shelved and least shelved. No one is surprised about that poetry book. Also, no one is surprised that ACOTAR was the most shelved book I read this year. Although that was a reread, so like, I always just showed my most shelved new book, but it's okay. And then average rating 4.3 is pretty good. One thing I did this year, which I'll talk about more when I get to Storygraph, is I prioritized reading a lot. Like, not so much in the first part of the year where I read a lot of books I disliked, but I read so much fantasy this year, and like, I love fantasy so much. I know what I like in fantasy. So I'm pretty happy with that average rating. I do think I need to get a little more discerning. I do think I gave out some undeserved 4 stars this year that really should have been 3.5, or maybe even 3 stars. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with this. Highest rated, Kingdom of Ash. No one is surprised. Hopefully some book other than the like 4 that have already showed up will eventually show up on this. But yes, Kingdom of Ash was absolutely amazing. It was so good. And also I have to assume that if most people are getting to the 8th book of Throne of Glass, then they probably enjoy Throne of Glass. Like, there are definitely people who hate read series just because they want to dislike them so they can complain about them. But I have to assume if you get to the 8th book of Throne of Glass and finish it, then, like, you enjoy it. So it makes sense that it's the highest rated I read. First review of the year, Mirror to Mirror. This was an e-arc I read. It's middle grade. It was decent. Did I give it 3.5 or 4 stars? I give it 4 stars. Middle grade, I'm always a little more lenient with my ratings, where, like, I obviously don't look for the same qualities from them that I look for in YA and adult books. So yeah, my 2023 books. This just makes me so happy looking at all the books I read. Like, I love most of these so much. Last review of the year, A Court of Mist and Fury. So I read 175 out of 125 books. Goodreads says, congratulations, you're really good at reading, and probably a lot of other things too, which I guess thanks, Goodreads. So yeah, that's the Goodreads wrap-up. Let's go ahead and go to Storygraph. So we'll look at the wrap-up, and then we'll look at my actual stats for 2023. 175 books across 65,197 pages. I think that's fewer than the Goodreads one was. Oh, it's more. I'm guessing that's just I don't have the exact same editions marked for each book. Where Storygraph should be more accurate because I try to keep that more accurate, because when I track whether I own a book or not, then I try to make sure it's the edition I actually own, whereas I don't keep track of what books I own on Goodreads. First book and last book, that was horrible. And a reread. I don't know what I was thinking. I do know what I was thinking, which is I wanted to actually read the series. But no, that was not good. My issue with The Summer I Turned Pretty is I loved To All the Boys I Loved Before so much. Like, the first book is my favorite contemporary YA book. The series as a whole is so good. And The Summer I Turned Pretty just does not make sense coming from the same author. It's just not good. But Spy Family is always good. I saved this volume for my last book of the year over, like, winter break, because I was like, I need to end on a high note. So yeah, no one's surprised that the contemporary romance books of the first part of the year are lighter than the darker fantasy books of the second half of the year. I don't really know what this graph is supposed to be telling me, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't know. Most of the stories developed at a steady pace. Yeah, that makes sense, Storygraph. Books and pages read per month. Pretty good. You can tell I read a lot of longer books in July with, like, how much the page count goes up compared to the number of books read. Met my reading goal. I'm so happy I had fantasy at 70 books and contemporary at 40, where I didn't make precise reading goals for myself for 2023, other than setting my Goodreads and Storygraph goal at 125 books. That's because I wasn't really super active on any of my book social media at, like, the start of the year. But my big goal for myself, other than reading the 125 books, was to read more fantasy than contemporary, because that hadn't been the case the past few years, and, like, I just love fantasy so much more than contemporary romance. So I'm very happy with myself that I read a lot more fantasy books than I read contemporary or other genres. Longest book and shortest book. Not surprising, that's the same. This saying it took me 11 days to finish each book is very skewed by the fact that I finished reading A Tale of Two Cities, which took me almost a year. So I'm not really counting that as anything. See, and I'm pretty sure this just shows one of the books I finished in a day, because I finished a lot of books in a day. Like, there are a lot of books I start and finish on the same day, so I'm pretty sure it just chose, like, the first one I did. Authors I spent the most time with. No one's surprised that I read Jim Mass's first with 10 books, because I read the entirety of Throne of Glass, and I reread the first 2 ACOTAR books. And then Chigo Takano. This might have just chosen 2 of the authors I read 4 books from, because I read 4 Spy Family volumes, so he should also be on there. This is the author of Orange, which is a manga series, and then Jenny Han, I reread To All the Boys I Loved Before, and I read the Summer I Turned Pretty series. Average rating of 4.12, which more accurate than my Goodreads one, even though I think it's about the same, just because Storygraph allows half stars. And here are my 5-star reads. I love all these books so much. They're so good. Really, all these, I just love them so much. So yeah, lots of 4-star reads here. And lots of 5-star reads. Yeah, again, as I said before, I'm not remotely surprised June is my highest average rating, and January is my lowest average rating with 3.61. And then, not surprising, December is my most pages read. And no one's surprised by these. This book I would guess has 5 stars in Storygraph, only because, like, only like a couple people have shelved it. Maybe I'm the only person who's rated it. It's possible. We'll probably find out, actually. Two people have rated it. Oh, but I'm the only one who's giving it stars. Okay. 99 new authors is pretty good. Out of 175 books, yeah, it's pretty good. 89 books I read were part of a series. 21 rereads, I really was not expecting, but I did not reread Delilah Green Doesn't Care. Oh. These two are counting as as rereads because I purchased the physical book, so these are still counting as reviews for the ebooks, but I marked the physical books as read, so it thinks I've read this. Okay. Both as I purchased physical versions after I read them. So a lot of these weren't actual rereads. I only DNF'd 5 books. That's pretty good. I probably should have DNF'd more books in that first part of the year. And I read 109 books from my own shelves. Again, I guess that's a little biased because there's a couple of books I did buy after reading on ebook. But 109 is pretty decent. We're aiming for more than that this year. And we've already seen this with Goodreads. Okay. So let's go to my 2023 stats. So we know this. Moods, mostly emotional, adventurous, and lighthearted. So I'm guessing lighthearted and funny are contemporary romance, and these two are mostly the fantasy books. Pace. I really don't know how much storograph pace really means. I mean, some of these I would agree. Or Chain of Thorns, I don't think I'd agree with slow paced. And sure, the graphic novels were fast paced, but Yellowface is not fast paced. Half a Soul, not fast paced. And then a lot of these I think are counted as fast paced only because they're short. So again, no one's surprised that the medium category is the most read. I did read 6 nonfiction books. That's pretty good. Oh, I missed those were poetry I was made to read. Bigger Breakdown. What the heck was Health? Oh. So yeah, another goal I contemplated reading was reading more queer books this year. But the issue is I don't own that many because when I buy them, I tend to read them very quickly. So I don't currently have that many on my TBR, so if I really want to prioritize reading my own TBR, then I couldn't make that a goal. Yeah, I didn't want to get too much more specific with wanting to read specific genres because reading down my physical TBR was so much of a goal for me. Apparently, one of the books I read this year was I Forgot to Tag is read in 2023. And there are the rereads. 25 queer girl reads. It'll probably be fewer than that next year, but the year after that I can read as many as I want, hopefully. Format, not sure how correct this is. There's only one audiobook that I counted as being an audiobook, even though I probably shouldn't have because I own it as a hardback, but I read it entirely on audiobook. But my To All the Boys I've Loved Before reread was also an audiobook, and Anyway the Wind Blows I read, which I also read entirely on audiobook. So I don't know. Take all the format stuff with a grain of salt. So yeah, and I was right. I did read 4 books from 3 different authors. And then 3 books from 5 authors. So Jennifer L. Armentrout, because I read the first 3 books from Blood and Ash. Cassandra Clare would have been the first 3 Last Hours books. Yeah, it's the 3 Last Hours books. The first 2 are rereads. And then the Winter Night Trilogy, Once Upon a Broken Heart, and The Inheritance Games. I didn't like The Inheritance Games. We've already seen that. And we've already seen that. So, yeah. And then, eek. I want to see my read books for all time to go and... So yeah, I want to see this chart because this was this past year. You can see I read 175 books in both 2021 and 2023. I only read 128 in 2022 and 150 in 2020. 121 in 2019, 114 in 2018. 2017, I only started using Goodreads partway through the year, so I wasn't tracking my books before that. See, as you can see, it varies a lot how much books I read once it gets above 125. So, it is what it is. I didn't want to set a goal higher than that, but I also couldn't set a goal lower than that if I wanted to hit my TBR goals. And then I don't know if Goodreads is going to tell us anything new in these. Yeah, this is just I read too many books. There's no way to process this. I mean, I guess knowing this October is tied for my 5th best reading month of all time is a thing. I don't know what to do with this information. So that's about all the stats I have for 2023. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty hopeful about my goals for this year. I'm definitely the most concerned about my TBR goal, where I don't know how realistic it is to be at 75 books or fewer by the end of the year, but I'm going to try. And that's what's important. Where even if I get close to that, I'll still be happy because it will still be significantly reduced from how it is currently. which is simply too many books. And the most annoying thing is, like, a lot of books that, like, I read pretty quickly. It's just, like, there's books that have been sitting on my physical TBR since, like, 2018 or something that, like, I'm not totally certain if I still want to read, but I own them, and I'd rather give them the benefit of the doubt because, like, I own them. So then I get worried, I get hesitant to unhaul them, and then it's a whole thing. But I'd really like to reduce that physical TBR. And yeah, thanks so much for staying around to the end of the video. I don't know how long this is going to work out to be. We'll see. I'm currently at about an hour of footage, so hopefully that gets cut down a lot. I'm just looking at the outside where it's, with the knowledge it is so cold, and I really don't want to go to lunch after I finish filming this. But I have no food in my dorm room, so we've gotta. So yeah, thanks so much for staying around to the end. I really hope it's warmer for you than it is for me. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. I really appreciate it. You can find me on Goodreads, Storygraph, my blog, and occasionally on Bookstagram at the links in my channel description. And yeah, thanks again for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you later.